Hey guys, in this video we're doing lesson 6.6, which is on the multiplicity of x-intercepts. And so just a reminder, the x-intercepts, that is the points where it crosses the x-axis. Okay. So remember, the degree of a function is the highest exponent. So if I have like x to the 5th plus 2x squared minus 9, this would be a degree of 5. But in general, let's just say the degree is n, some number, n for number. Then the number of x-intercepts is at most n. So for example, this one that I wrote here to the left, that one could not have more than 5 x-intercepts. It could have less, but it could not have more than 5. Now, anytime that the degree is even, then it has to have an even number of x-intercepts. So if I have a degree of 4, it could have 4 x-intercepts, 2 x-intercepts, or none. It could not have 3 x-intercepts. And then this x to the 5th example that I wrote down, it could have 5, it could have 3, or it could have 1. It could not have 2 or 4, and it can't have more than 5. So even degrees have an even number, odd degrees have an odd number. So let's look at some graphs, and we'll graph them and find their x-intercepts. So to graph, you need to go to y equals, and you need to type in your equation. So I'm going to go to y equals and type in x cubed plus x squared minus 2x. Now, if we are graphing, we want to look at the table. So you do this by clicking Second Graph. And the reason we go to the table is because it helps us get the most points and our picture is more accurate. So I typed in my equation and then click Second Graph. And based on my table, I have the point -2, 0, -1, 2, 0, 0, 1, 0, and 2, 8. So we're going to plot points. And then we click the graph button to see the actual graph so that our picture, so we get it looking right. So, messed up there. So it looks something like this. If you don't look at the picture of the graph, you're not going to know how to connect those dots. So based on this picture, what are the x-intercepts? Here's one, and there's one. They are at -2. So let's see, x-intercepts are at -2, 0, and 1. Oh, that was ugly. Let's try another one. Go to y equals. Type in your function, x to the 4th minus x cubed minus 3x squared plus 3. Remember, during these videos, you need to be following along. You need to have, if you've got your phone with the app, you need to have that right beside of you typing in as I tell you. Or if you're doing it on your Chromebook, maybe have a split screen so you can see the video and type in at the same time. If you're not doing that and you're just copying down what I say, you're not getting the practice and you're not going to know how to do it on the test. All right, so I've typed it in. Then I click second graph to get my table. And you may have to scroll up or down to find those points. Or if for some reason those points aren't showing up at all, send me an email and I'll help you get it situated and fixed. All right, so -1, 2, 0, 3, 1, 0, and 2, 2, -1. I mean, that looks like a funky thing, but if we look at the graph, it'll help us figure that out a little better. All right, so we got, let's see, we go down, up, down, up, like this. So the x-intercepts, we have this one. This one was right on the point. But then this one right here wasn't exactly on a point, so that looks like 2.2 or something. I don't know. You just take your best guess. So the x-intercepts are at 1 and 2.2. So we're going to get into something called the multiplicity. And then I'll show you why that multiplicity is important. So the multiplicity refers to these exponents. And an exponent tells us how many times that a specific thing is being multiplied. So in this case, in this scenario, they tell us how many times we have these factors. This x plus 2 is a factor. And if we did a little bit in quadratics on factoring, we're going to do a lot more in this unit on factoring. And the multiplicity just is the exponent. So what we do is we're going to find the 0 or find the x-intercept. So x plus 2 equals 0. So we take what's in the parentheses and we set it equal to 0, and then we solve. So we subtract 2 from both sides. So that cancels. X equals 0 minus 2 is -2. And then we say the multiplicity is 2 because that was the exponent. So let's need a little bit bigger there. Okay. Now the other one, this factor, 2x plus 5 equals 0. So those cancel. 2x equals -5. 0 minus 5 is -5. And then we divide by 2. -5 divided by 2 is, -2.5. And then the multiplicity is 3. Because the exponent was 3. Let's try number 2. this one. Now, usually if there's nothing being added or subtracted, you won't see parentheses, but that's where they would be. They would be around the x. So our first factor is x. We set that equal to 0. There's literally nothing to add or subtract, so it's x equals 0. But the multiplicity is 2 because it had an exponent of 2. Then we have x minus 7 equals 0. We add 7 to both sides. These cancel, leaving us with x equals 7. What is the multiplicity? 6. Multiplicity is 6. And then our last one, well, rats. We have 2x plus 1 equals 0. We subtract 1 from both sides. Those cancel. 2x equals negative 1. And then we divide by 2. So x equals, you can leave it as a fraction. You can leave it as negative 1/2 or negative 0.5. That's your preference. And the multiplicity is what? It's actually 1. If you don't see an exponent, we assume it's 1, not 0. So why is this important? Well, let's do an example, and I'll show you what the multiplicity has to do with anything. So before we actually graph it, let's just do what we were doing in the previous examples. X equals 0. We take this first one, x equals 0. What is the multiplicity? 1. And then we have x minus 3 equals 0. So if we add 3 to both sides, we get x equals 3 with a multiplicity of 2. And we're going to be looking at the multiplicity. Is it an odd number or is it an even number? Well, in the first one, the multiplicity is 1. That's an odd number. In the other one, the multiplicity is 2. An even number. So let's just look at the graph. We won't have to be precise. I don't care if you go to the table or not. We do know that we have points at 0 and at 3. Those are my x-intercepts. And this is what the graph looks like. That. So the multiplicity tells us something about what the graph does at that x-intercept. So my first x-intercept right here at 0, that was an odd multiplicity. And notice how the graph actually crosses through the point. Anytime your multiplicity is odd, the graph crosses at the 0. But over here, where the multiplicity is even, it doesn't actually cross through. It like bounces. It hits it and it bounces back up. So whenever the multiplicity is even, it bounces. So So let's practice this. What we're going to do is we're going to find the 0 or find the x-intercept. We're going to list the multiplicity, and then we're going to tell, does it bounce or does it cross? All right, so let's look here. X plus 7 equals 0. And then we subtract 7 from both sides to get x equals -7. So my 0 is -7. What is the multiplicity? 2. So the multiplicity is 2. And what does that do? Does it bounce or does it cross? Well, since the multiplicity is an even number, it's going to bounce. All right, 2x plus 1 equals 0. If we subtract 1 from both sides, we get 2x equals -1. And then we divide by 2. So x equals -1/2, or you can put it -0.5, either way. That one does not have an exponent, so we assume it's 1. Multiplicity is 1. And because 1 is an odd number, it's going to cross. And then we have x minus 4 equals 0. And then if we add 4, we get x equals 4. That has a multiplicity of 3. And since that is an odd number, it's going to cross. All right, last one. I want you to pause the video and try number 6. See if you can get it on your own. So we have 2x equals 0. When we divide by 2, we just get x equals 0. It had a multiplicity of 8, which meant that it's going to bounce. X minus 7 equals 0. Adding 7 to both sides gives us x equals 7, with a multiplicity of 1, which means it's going to cross. X plus 6 equals 0. If we subtract 6 from both sides, we get x equals -6. So the multiplicity is 4, meaning it's going to bounce. Now, I hope you stuck with me this whole time because I am giving you a chance at bonus points. So if you send me an email, let me think what I want you to say. If you send me an email with the word flower, then I will give you some bonus points. Now, don't tell your friends just to send the email because they need to be watching the videos themselves. So hopefully you got this. Send me an email with the word flower.